Hello everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping into a super fast revision of the Our Environment chapter. We're going to be using some amazing exam notes put together by Prashant Sir from Pratibha classes. So if you've got an exam coming up, you are in the right place. Let's get you prepped and ready to go.
So here's the game plan for today. This is our roadmap to absolutely crushing this chapter. We're going to start with the big picture, what an ecosystem even is, and then we'll work our way through food webs, energy rules, and all the way to how we deal with waste. Let's break this thing down piece by piece.
Okay, first things first, we've got to start with the absolute foundation, right? This is kind of like the stage where every single interaction in nature happens. We're talking about the ecosystem.
Now, the most important word here, seriously, burn it into your brain, is interact. See, an ecosystem isn't just a collection of things. It's not just a forest with trees and rocks. It's all about how the living parts, the biotic stuff, and the non-living parts, the abiotic stuff, are constantly interacting with each other. It's a relationship.
And this breaks it down really nicely into two main types you need to know. You've got your natural ecosystems. Think forests, lakes, oceans, the stuff nature built all on its own. And then you have artificial ones, the ones we create, like a garden, a crop field, or even that aquarium in your living room. They're both ecosystems, right? Just one has Mother Nature as the architect, and the other has us.
I really like this chart. It lays everything out so clearly. So a simple way to think about it is this. The abiotic parts are like the non-living set pieces on a stage. The air, the water, the soil, the temperature. And the biotic parts? Well, they're the living actors on that stage. You've got your producers making the food, your consumers eating it, and your decomposers, they're the cleanup crew, recycling everything.
Okay, so we know all these parts interact, but how? Well, that leads us straight into the great food web. This is all about tracking the most fundamental thing that powers any ecosystem, the flow of energy.
All right, a food chain is basically the simplest way to see how energy moves. It's a straight line, A eats B, B eats C. And here we have the classic example, right? The grass is the producer, making energy from the sun. The deer, a primary consumer, eats the grass. And then the lion, a secondary consumer, eats the deer. Super straightforward.
Okay, here's a question straight out of Prashant Sir's notes. And trust me, this is a classic exam question. It's not just some random what if. This question really gets to the core of just how delicate these systems can be. So let's think about it. What actually happens if we just, poof, remove an entire level? What if all the deer disappear?
Well, the whole thing falls apart. It's like knocking over the first domino. With no deer around to eat it, the grass population would just explode. And on the other side, with no deer to hunt, what happens to the lions? They starve. See, you don't just remove one link, you break the whole chain and throw the entire ecosystem out of balance.
All right, everyone, listen up, because this next part is a big one. Prashant Sir literally marked this important for exam in his notes, and he's not kidding. We're about to talk about a fundamental rule of energy that applies to pretty much all life on Earth.
10%. That's it. That's the magic number. If you take away only one thing from this whole section, make it this, 10%. It's the key to understanding why food chains can't go on forever.
And here's the official name for it, Lindemann's 10% law. It's super simple. When an organism is eaten, only about 10% of its energy gets passed on to the next level. So when that deer eats the grass, it only gets a tiny fraction of the grass's energy. So where does the other 90% go? Well, it's lost. Mostly as heat, just from the deer living, breathing, and running around. It's like there's this huge 90% universe tax on energy at every single step.
And this chart, wow, it shows you that energy drop perfectly. Look at those numbers. If the producers, the grass, have, say, 10,000 units of energy, the primary consumers, the deer, only get 1,000 of those. And the lions, they're left with just 100. It's a huge drop-off. And this answers another classic exam question. Who has the most energy in an ecosystem? It's always the producers at the bottom.
Okay, we just saw how energy decreases as it goes up the food chain. Now, get ready for something that does the complete opposite. Prashant Sir flagged this as maybe the single most important concept in the whole chapter. We're talking about how poisons don't disappear, they accumulate.
So here's the deal. Harmful chemicals, like pesticides, get into the environment. And the problem is they don't break down. They're non-biodegradable. They just stick around. They get stored in an organism's body, usually in the fat. So when a bigger animal eats that organism, it eats all that stored poison too.
And it just keeps building up, getting more and more concentrated at every level of the food chain.
And this is where it gets really scary. Guess who's often at the top of the food chain? Yep, humans. That means we can end up with the highest concentration of these nasty chemicals in our bodies. It's a stark reminder that what we put into the environment, it doesn't just go away. It comes right back to us, right onto our plates.
So we've talked about threats inside the food web. Now let's look way up at a threat from outer space and the incredibly important and fragile shield that protects us from it.
You can think of the ozone layer as Earth's giant, invisible pair of sunglasses. It's this layer of a special molecule, O3, way up in the stratosphere, and its job is to block the sun's most harmful ultraviolet, or UV rays, from ever reaching the surface. It's absolutely crucial for life here.
So naturally, another big exam question from the notes is, why should we be so concerned about damaging it? I mean, what's the big deal if this shield gets a little bit thinner?
Well, the consequences are actually pretty severe for us. When more of those UV rays get through, it can lead to serious health problems like skin cancer and cataracts in our eyes. And what's causing the damage? The main villain here is a class of chemicals called CFCs, or chlorofluorocarbons. You used to find them in things like old refrigerators and AC units.
All right, for our last topic, let's bring it back down to earth and talk about something we all create every single day: trash. How we manage our waste is, without a doubt, one of the biggest challenges our environment faces.
And really, it all boils down to two basic types of trash. First, you have your biodegradable waste. This is the stuff that can rot, Things like vegetable peels, paper, wood. Bacteria can break it down and return it to the soil. But then you have non-biodegradable waste. And this is the problem stuff. Plastic, glass, it can't be broken down naturally. It just sits in landfills or pollutes our oceans for like hundreds or even thousands of years.
And there you have it. That's our super quick tour through the key ideas from Prashant Sir's notes. From how energy flows, to how poisons build up, to how we deal with waste, you can see it's all connected. If you can get a handle on these concepts, you are going to be in great shape for your exam.
But hey, before we sign off, let's think a little bigger than just the exam. These notes, they get you ready for a test, right? But the real question is, how will you prepare to protect our environment? Because knowing all this stuff is one thing, but using that knowledge to actually make a difference for this amazing, fragile planet we all share, well, that's the real test, isn't it?